Pokemon has really become an expansive franchise, hasn't it? I mean, we're currently 9 generations in, and we have over 1,000 Pokemon to fight each other with. And with a roster so varied, it does beg the question, which Pokemon is the rarest out of all of them? Well, I wanted to answer that question, so I went on a research spree to find out all the unique and obscure ways to obtain a certain Pokemon, so I could have a definitive answer to the question. Before we properly get started, let's set a couple ground rules. First off, no normal Pokemon is going to be considered for this. In my opinion, every single species of Pokemon is themselves not rare in their regular forms, and I know some, like the Deoxys, are kinda rare because they're less frequent distributions. If multiple people can have a complete living dex, then there's no way a whole species can be considered for the rarest. And secondly, I'm not taking Hackmon into consideration because, well, they're not legit. And let's be fair, we've all got like 10 Machamps.com and our Pokemon Sword and Shield at this point, so they're not rare anyway. There is an exception to this rule, but it's kind of a grey area and we'll get into it later. So that being said, let's get on with the candidates. The first area of Pokemon I looked into was, unsurprisingly, event Pokemon. Event Pokemon are special Pokemon distributed via the internet or in an in-store event as a celebration or a release of a new game, holiday, movie, or just a way to release some mythical Pokemon. There is quite a lot to cover, so I'm just going to go over some of the more obscure ones and the ones that I think that are at least worth mentioning going by generation. Starting with Gen 3, in the States, the Pokemon Center in New York did a bunch of distributions for holidays and had some themed Pokemon Week. The first one was Evolution Week, which had a Pikachu with a Thunderstone, 2 Glooms, one with a Leaf Stone and the other with a Sunstone, and a Staryu with a Water Stone. This was from the 30th of August till the 1st of September 2003, and yeah, it's pretty obscure. I mean, you have to be in New York Pokemon Center at the time of, 3 days to get these fuckers. The next one was the Dragon Week distribution, where you could get a Kindra with a Dragon Scale and 2 Flygons and 2 Altarias and Salamanters, either with Dragon Scale or Dragon Fang. These ones were available from the 29th of September to the 3rd of October 2003, and again, yeah, pretty obscure. Then there was the Monster Week, which gave you a Shedinja, a Cacturne, a Duskull, and Shuppet from the 18th to 24th of October 2003. Then they did 2 holiday ones, starting with Halloween, which gave you 2 Explods, Wailords, Ragdoll at level 50 and level 100 respectively from the 25th to the 31st of October 2003. And then there was, in my opinion, the rarest of them all, the Christmas event, where you could get a Milotic, a Zangoose, a Viper, and Kingdra on Christmas Day, only 2003. Considering there was literally a 1-day window where you could obtain these guys, I would consider these very, very, very rare. However, these guys don't really have anything rare about them except their OT, being PCNY, A, B, C, or D, but finding any of these in the wild is very difficult, so they're worth mentioning. Across the world, shiny Zigzagoons holding Lychee Berries were released alongside the demo disc for the GameCube, which patched the infamous berry glitch, found in the Gen 3 games, which makes all the berries cease to grow after a period of time. So Zigzagoons were meant as an apology, and since this comes with the Lychee Berry, the rarest berry and maybe item at the time, yeah, that was a good trade-off. In Japan, you could receive eggs of Bagon, Absol, Ralts, and Pichu with the special move Wish, something they couldn't normally obtain from the 25th of April to the May 18th, 2003, for the Pokemon Center's 5th year anniversary. This one is definitely interesting, as you could get them through eggs that you hatch, as well as having exclusive moves. Also, considering they were also only in Japan and were also only available for about 3 weeks, it's up there for sure. There were some more Wish Egg Pokemon for Fire Red Leaf Green, Drowsy, Chansey, Lickitung, Kangaskhan, Farfetch'd, and Execute from 16th of December 2004 to 2nd of January 2005 in the Pokemon Center again. More interestingly, there were the Jeremy's Pokemon event. This was an event held at Toys R Us on September 25th, 2004, and it had a collection of 12 Pokemon: Vulpix, Tauros, Staryu, Slowpoke, Shelder, Sandshrew, Psyduck, Oddish, Machoke, Haunter, Growlithe, and Ekans, all with the OT of Jeremy. This was done as a way to get version-exclusive Pokemon or harder to obtain Pokemon, and they're all possibly named after Jeremy Hepworth, a Pokemon Event staff member. Apart from their OT, there's nothing really special about them. They even have similar levels to what they'd be in the wild, but it was cool that you could get a version-exclusive without trading with someone. Japan gives us the Flying Pikachu event as a celebration of the opening of the ANA terminal, and has a Pikachu with the move Fly from the 5th to the 25th of December 2004. This one's probably the coolest and most sought after so far. I mean, it's literally a flying Pikachu, and considering how limited its release was, in its obscure area that you wouldn't think there would be a Pokemon distribution, this one is definitely a candidate. Pokemon Rocks America was a tour across the states from 2003 to 2005, and it offered some unique Pokemon content, most notably access to the Mystic and Aurora tickets to get Ho-Oh, Lugia, and Deoxys. There was another Pokemon normally distributed through this tour, however, being a Matang. It had the OT of Rocks, and it could be obtained from the 17th of September to the 22nd of October 2005, the same time frame as the Mystic ticket. I'm noticing a trend here with these early events, just a regular, somewhat hard to obtain Pokemon with the event locations OT. Although at the time the Tangline was very hard to obtain, so it did help with that. In Europe there was actually a different Deoxys distribution, being the Hunt for Deoxys. This was an event that took place from October 8th to November 6th, 2005, where you had to go to a local VUE cinema and download the Aurora ticket there. Interestingly, this event was also tied with a prize hunt in the UK that involved postcards being sent to thousands of schools, and players would have to find and work out the clues in order to win prizes. This was also done by Jetix, which is a name I never thought I'd hear again, but hey, it was 2005, Jetix was like the king of the UK at that point. Anyway, in Japan they released the Gen 2 and 3 starters as part of the Got 'em Catch 'em All 2 event from the 17th to 31st of December 2005. There's the Reggies, which were released through the opening of the Pokepark from the 1st to 25th of September 2005. There was a Pikachu release with Surf alongside the Pokemon Center opening from 17th of July to 21st of August 2005, and another Flying Pikachu in stores from 25th of April to 8th of May 2005. There was yet another Surfing Pikachu distributed at Pokemon Festival GW from the 19th of March to 5th of April 2005. However, this one is holding a light ball, which makes it more desirable. There was a Mew event in the States in Toys R Us on the 30th of September 2006, which I think is the first time Mew was distributed without the old C map, instead just given to you upright. There was a lot of Pokemon released at the Bryan Park event on 8th of August 2006, being the legendary birds, the legendary dogs, the Lati twins, Umbreon and Espeon, Tyranitar, Absol, Alakazam, Dragonite, another Pikachu with a light bulb, Charizard, Typhlosion, Blaziken, Blastoise, and weirdly Bulbasaur, all at level 70. The same Pokemon alongside Celebi were distributed earlier in February 2005 as part of Pokemon's 10th anniversary. I just find it weird that it was Bulbasaur and not Venusaur, but whatever. There were some more Gotta Catch 'em All events in Japan too. However, the most interesting 2006 Japan event was the last Gen 3 event, the Jungle Tour Celebi, running from 20th of July to 3rd of September 2006. An event held all across Japan to obtain Celebi. Moving on to Gen 4 is the 10th anniversary Chatot, released as part of the 10th anniversary concert. It's holding a Soothe bell, and honestly this makes me smile. Chatot's a music bird, you give it a nice bell and release it as a concert, it's perfect. Another really cool one is the ability to get a level 1 Dialga, Palkia and Giratina. The method of getting them is completing the Sinjah Ruins event, an event which you need an Arceus for, another very difficult Pokemon to obtain at the time. Then take it to the Sinjah Ruins in Heart Gold Soul Silver, which will trigger the event. Afterwards, you can pick an egg that contains level 1 Dialga, Palkia, or Giratina as the reward. I know there isn't really a time frame for this event. However, A, the Pokemon did have a time frame, and B, it's a pretty damn obscure Pokemon event, which means it's rare enough to at least mention. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first and so far only time you could obtain a box legendary at level 1. Using Pokemon Ranger, you could obtain a Heatran with Eruption, which, yes, obscure, but also this thing was used quite heavily and competitive just for that move. In Gen 5, one of the most elusive at the time were the shiny legendary dogs, which were available from the 7th to the 13th of February 2011. And once transferred to Black and White, you could take them to the Lost Zone Forest and fight Zoroark, the only way at the time to legitimately obtain one, with the exception of the Celebi event distributed at the same time, which allows you to obtain Zoroark, the pre-evolution. One of the coolest events was Nobunaga's Rayquaza, which was a tie-in with Pokemon Conquest in Japan, which was his shiny Rayquaza distributed from the 17th of March to the 12th of April 2012. There was also another Rayquaza event earlier from the 10th to the 27th of February 2012, which had the Victini exclusive move V-Create, at the time the single highest damaging move that didn't knock yourself out, and it made the big Ray even more feared, which, when I think about it, was just a prelude for what was to come. When Sun and Moon first released, there were some eggs distributed for the Gen 7 monkeys, Goomy, Marini, Turnator, and Drampa, which were interesting as they're the only Pokemon at the time to hatch an egg and be in a Cherish Pool, which is pretty neat. Also, back in 2016, Japan ran an event where people voted for their favourite Pokemon. At the end of it, out of all 721 Pokemon at the time, Simisear was voted the absolute least favourite, so it was given an event to rub it in his dumb little primate face. Okay, so the bottom line here, there's a ton of obscure one-off event Pokemon, like we said, the rarest, especially the older ones. I doubt there's more than 100 total that still have them, but they're still rare. However, I wanted to check out some other possibilities of extremely rare Pokemon that theoretically anyone can get if they try hard enough. The next area of rareness I wanted to tackle is shiny Pokemon. Shiny Pokemon have been a concept in Pokemon since Gen 2 and are basically very rare, differently coloured Pokemon which have a sparkle effect when they come out of the ball. Most of them are pretty cool, and since Gen 6 they've been significantly improved. Well, except Gen 9 shinies for some reason. Most of them look trash, but hey, whatever, they're probably too busy making this game a subway simulator. The point is, every single species has a shiny form and so has an exceptionally rare version of itself. The issue here is that we as players have created various methods that make acquiring shinies much easier. Be it the good old Masuden method, Pokeradar, chain fishing, or whatever. Then in Gen 6 they just straight up made it easier for us by splitting the odds in two, and in recent titles such as Legends Arceus, it isn't hard to fill an entire box with shinies after enough playtime. Hell, even the earlier titles before the odds improvement, they still gave out freebie shinies like the red Gyarados and Johto and the shiny Haxorus or Gible or Dratini in Black and White 2. If I'm going to consider any shiny Pokemon, I'm going to need to go into specifics. When shiny Pokemon first added back in Gen 2, they were determined by their IVs, or individual values, and weirdly, the only unknown forms that could be shiny were I and V. In Gen 4, the shiny forms of question mark and exclamation mark are significantly rarer than the other shiny forms due to needing all other unknown forms before you can unlock the area with the punctuation unknown. A good way to distinguish rare shinies are gender ratios. For example, starter Pokemon will have a 1:8 gender ratio, meaning that a shiny female starter is 8 times rarer than a shiny male starter theoretically. There are other Pokemon that only evolve in one gender, such as shiny Vespiquen or Salazzle, from female Combees or Salandids, which are only female 25% of the time, meaning these guys are 4 times rarer than the average shiny. However, whilst rare, I wouldn't exactly call them the rarest. I mean, I have both of them. There are, however, a couple of specific shinies that are definitely worth mentioning. In Pokemon Ranger, you had the ability to get a Manaphy egg, and once transferred to Diamond and Pearl, you could hatch it. The interesting thing is that this egg could actually be shiny. It still had the regular odds for Gen 4, 1 in 8,192, but it was pretty cool you get a shiny one. But that Manaphy egg was only 1 per cartridge, meaning you can't just replay through Ranger in order to get another egg, you'd have to buy another copy of Pokemon Ranger. Considering this game is around 25 quid used, and there's a 75% chance a used copy already used the Manaphy egg, yeah, this one might be basically impossible these days. Still, this one just had the regular odds, and with those odds, there's bound to be at least a couple people with a shiny Ranger Manaphy. This one, on the other hand, I guarantee nobody has. Spinder is a Pokemon introduced in Gen 3, and is notable for not only being complete trash, but also having the unique gimmick of having different spot patterns, with pretty much every Spinder being unique. I guess you can say every individual Spinder is rare in its own way, but imagine getting 2 Spinder with the exact same pattern. That's basically unheard of. Putting it into perspective, my mate Arossavi did the calcs about Spinder, and if you want a certain pattern of shiny Spinder, it would take you on average 1 million years to find it. To put it into perspective, if you started shiny hunting it 1 every second and your family took over and did that from birth to death and everyone in your family lived till about age 80, it would take over 100,000 generations of your family to find the same shiny Spinder. Let's get even more ridiculous. What if you wanted 2 of the same shiny Spinder? Actually, fuck it. What if you wanted a horde battle of 5 of the same pattern shiny Spinder, perfect nature, perfect IVs, all with POKERUS? Well, the odds of that are, unsurprisingly, this. Yeah, I'm not sure what this number is, but it scares me. So yeah, I challenge any shiny hunter out there to get this. Or hell, even a whole horde battle of shiny Spinder would be stupid rare. Ribbons were a gimmick of Pokemon added in Gen 3 and were little items that were awarded to Pokemon for various things, such as going through the Hall of Fame with them, for example. They're honestly pretty cool and add a lot of personality to the Pokemon, and what's really sweet is that they stay on the Pokemon across generations. I was first going to talk about the rarest ribbons until I realised one of the rarest Pokemon has got to be one that can obtain every single ribbon. My mate L did some research and compiled together a tier list of Pokemon that contain certain ribbons, and there's a small number of species that can actually do this. This is possible to do on the Ralts line, Snorunt line, Magneton, Magnezone, Golduck, Sudowoodo, Chansey, Blissey, Cypher line, Sneasel line, and Heracross. Interestingly, Pokemon like Magnemite, Psyduck, Happiny, and Bonsai cannot receive all ribbons, due to the former 2 not being available in the Ore games in their base form, and the latter 2 not existing until Gen 4. However, if the base form is available since Gen 3, as long as you can get the base form in every game, you can have a newer Pokemon receive every ribbon. The prime and coolest example of this is that once Scarlet and Violet home compatibility is released, you can have a Kleavor, a Pokemon introduced in 2022, have every ribbon. This is certainly an oddity and obscure group of Pokemon, and hell, maybe one day I'll try this for myself for a future video. Before I end things, there's a couple of random Pokemon which, whilst rare, didn't fit into a category or somewhat hard to rate based on validity. First off, I got to mention the University Magikarp. This was an event known as the Tamushi University Hyper Test, and alongside a rare Magikarp promo card, 20 apparently received the Magikarp with the move Dragon Rage, something it can't normally learn. This was done all the way back in Gen 1 in Japan only, and as far as my research could yield, there's only evidence of one floating around Japan somewhere. The sad thing is, the internal batteries of these old Game Boy cartridges are going to be either flat or near death, meaning this sucker might be a relic to time soon enough. Even still, this is one of the first ever events in the franchise's history, is incredibly obscure, and there's a solid chance that these guys don't even exist anymore. The other event mod I wanted to mention is, well, bad. I'm going to say this right now, this part of the video is going to contain some offensive material, however please be advised I'm merely documenting it. I do not condone this or think it was humorous in any way. Back in 2009, Nintendo World Store in New York were doing a release party event for Pokemon Platinum, and had a couple of kiosks set up where attendees could get event Pokemon. That Pokemon was meant to be an Eevee. However, a man in a Team Rocket costume attending the event hacked the kiosk and modified the ROM of the DS distribution cart to the event, and made it, well, something else. This is what they chose, a shiny Gengar with some very racist characteristics. First off, and most blatant, its name is straight up the N-word, which is just unbelievably racist and obviously malicious. It goes further into racism with the moves, the natures, and all other details. It's gross. The thing was only distributed for a little bit, and thankfully the guy responsible was arrested. Considering it's at a Nintendo store at a Pokemon event, where I'm guessing a lot of children were attending, yeah, I'm glad this fucker got arrested. Whilst this does qualify as an obscure and rare Pokemon, I really don't think it should count. Yes, you could get it in an official store, but come on, that thing was hacked in, and honestly, out of everything I've mentioned today, this one I think should be lost to time. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Again, thank you to Arossavi and Elle for helping out with this video. They really helped out a ton, and honestly this video couldn't be as good without them, so check them out. Also, thank you to Sugar Conroy for letting me borrow his background footage for this. He's a really great Pokemon Let's Player and he's done some really good Let's Plays. In fact, he's currently doing a Let's Play of Black and White 2 as we speak, so go and check it out. Anyway, thanks for that, and I'll see you next time.